Good afternoon again. I want to introduce Daniel, who really believes in doing more than just running a company. He is a pioneering social entrepreneur known in the international community for developing business models that integrate social objectives with sustainable market-driven forces. He founded Kind, that's of course the snack, in 2004 with the mission of making the world a little kinder, one snack at a time. And in 2009, Time magazine named Daniel among 25 pioneers of social innovation, and Business Week naming him among America's most promising social entrepreneurs. What a title. Daniel is also the founder of PeaceWorks, and that's an organization that pursues both profit and peace.
Hi, guys. Thank you, guys. I'm very pleased to be here. I saw in the hallways all the energy of the people gathered around here, so it's a real honor to have a conversation with you guys. They gave me 10 minutes for my opening presentation, but I told them I was going to cheat and only do a couple minutes because I want to be able to talk with you more. So I'm going to just tell you a little bit about myself for a couple minutes, and then Rena and I will talk, and I think she's going to take questions and share some of her own questions. I assume that a lot of you guys have tried Kind bars. How many of you have ever eaten a Kind bar? And then how many of you, prior to signing up for this conference, knew about the Kind movement? It's actually a surprisingly high number. It's maybe 20, 30%. But on average, it's a much smaller number of people. And it's originally by design that we didn't start Kind when we shared our story by telling people about our movement. From the very beginning, we had a big aspiration for Kind to become far more than a company that makes delicious, healthy snacks. And we wanted to try to inspire people and try to celebrate kindness in the many different manifestations in which we've done it. But purposely, I try to hold back from coming front and center in our mission. And that might be a little perplexing nowadays where people are talking so much about how the mission has to be at the center of a company. But I learned the hard way from my passions to try to make sure that when we sell products, we focus on the product features. And while our social mission is embedded into what we do and how we believe, that we are very careful about how to separate when we do marketing or when we talk about our products, the social from the business value proposition. And the reason for that is that back in 1994, I started my first company right after law school called PeaceWorks. And the goal of PeaceWorks is to use business to bring Arabs and Israelis together and to help people from conflict regions to shatter cultural stereotypes, to discover one another, and as they do trade with one another, to use the power of business to cement those relationships and create vested interests so that they don't want to stop interacting. And when I first came up with the idea for PeaceWorks, I was so excited about the concept that when we launched our products, all I could talk about was a social mission. And what I would experience was that people would say, oh, that's really, really nice. And then they would walk on and they wouldn't really actually buy our products. And only when we started talking about the products themselves, which were actually quite tasty, did people start actually giving us a chance. And so I learned, I'm really simplifying 11 years of mistakes, but I learned over that journey that you really, really need to be careful in how to harness the power of social responsibility in a way that's going to help you the right way and could hurt you if you don't use it the right way. You're, I think, going to get a copy of the book that I wrote, Do the Kind Thing, and I go a lot more in depth into that. But when 10 years into all of the mistakes that I had been doing with PeaceWorks, decided to come up with a healthy snack that I could travel with, the rationale for the product was that I had kind of developed a little bit of a knowledge of the food industry, but I was very frustrated with my own snacking options when I would travel to the Middle East or to Sri Lanka or Indonesia to pursue these joint ventures for new PeaceWorks ventures, or when I was crisscrossing the United States, going to every grocery store to try to sell our products, or skipping lunch or dinner and looking for a wholesome snack to eat. I was very frustrated with my own snacking options, and long story short, we created Kind as a solution for something that could be made with nutritionally dense whole ingredients, but that you could also feel good about putting in your mouth because it was not just helpful but also tasty. And when having had the experience with Peaceworks about having found, my friend Matt Slaterhausen and I've been in this space for now 21 years. And back then, the concept social responsibility, social entrepreneurship as a concept, I think it existed, but the term didn't exist. The field didn't exist. You were just doing it. But when I discovered that you could actually advance both business and social objectives and embed into your business model a social element, you could actually bring Arabs and Israelis together. I was so excited about the opportunity for business as a force to drive change that I decided that I was going to do the same thing with Kind, and that's how we came up with the concept of inspiring kindness through Kind, and I'll talk with Rina and with you guys a little bit more about what we do through the Kind movement. I really do think that business has enormous potential to transform our lives for the better. And I believe that it's imperative that we figure out how to harness all of that energy from those market forces to also do some social good. Because the challenges that we're going to face as humanity in the coming years are very, very serious. I mean, climate change is real. Water droughts in California, bee colony collapse, natural resource scarcity. Over 1 billion people are ascending in a standard of living and are going to demand more from the earth. And the strains that this is putting on our planet are visible already. And when you combine an ascendant consuming class of human beings with climate change challenges, not to mention intolerance and fanaticism and extremism and all the stuff we're seeing with Islamic State and the ISIS in the Middle East and all the challenges that we're seeing in the Arab-Israeli conflict and in a lot of intolerance in our own communities here in the United States, you put it all together and we should all be really, really concerned about the fate of our humanity. And unless we're able to discover each other's humanity through those small acts of kindness in every day and learn that we have a shared future, and unless we're able to harness the power of the sector that most permeates in our lives today, which is the private sector, it's going to be very hard to really move the needle and change the world and put it in the right course. So that's a lot of what I've been dedicating myself to in the last few years and what I'm very excited about in the coming years to do. So with 2.5 minutes to go, I'm ready to, my team always tells me that I talk too long, which is true, but I'm gonna stop here so that we can have a conversation. I'm very happy to be here with you guys.
Thank you very much. It's not often that the guest speaker stops before his time limit. I don't think I've ever seen that before.
Me neither.
So, Daniel, you've come a long way from the days of doing magic shows.
Yes.
You started off at a very young age doing these magic shows. There was this entrepreneurial spirit that you clearly always had with you.
I love doing magic shows. The woman volunteer that walked me through, I apologize, I forgot her name, asked me if I get stage fright. And I said no, and it's because as a kid, I used to do magic shows and I was taught this technique. And the technique is that you look at people and then you imagine them as flowers. I know some of you guys have heard the way that you think of them as naked, but I promise I don't do that to any of you. I just imagine you as flowers. But I learned as a kid to learn to be in front of audiences, and so much that magic taught me. I'm trying to get my little kids to love magic because I think magic taught me so much, but they're like, leave me alone, I want to learn about sports or about those stuff.
So tell me, you obviously have this incredible company, but when you were in the trenches building this company, were there any lessons that you walked away with? Was there one hard moment where you just didn't think it would all come together?
There were many. There were so many moments where people would have not faulted me if I had just given up and gone back and done something else. And I in writing the book, I went back and reflected and noticed and connected dots that I hadn't connected before. And Kind was founded in one of the toughest periods of my personal life and of my business life. My dad passed away the year that the company was founded, and my dad was my whole motivation for the work I do of building bridges. And he was a Holocaust survivor, and he went through the Dachau concentration camp as a little kid. And it's lessons he taught me both about the horrors of what he went through and what he was put through, as well as of the generosity and kindness of people in those circumstances that helped him survive, were what prompted me to try to dedicate myself to build bridges between people to prevent what happened to him from happening again to others. And one of the examples that I talk about in the book was this German soldier who, when people were not watching, threw a potato by my dad's feet. And my dad credits his survival to that moment where that soldier saw in my dad that humanity. And I think my dad was not only nourished where he was about to die as he felt, but also I think seeing the eyes of that person that saw him as a human gave him a reason to keep on. And so losing someone that meant everything to me was devastating. And at the same time, we had lost also one brand that we had invested about $1 million into building, and that's when we were $1 million company. So basically, we had lost everything, and we could not meet payroll. I actually managed to meet my other team members' payroll, but I sometimes had to skip my own salary, and I had a $24,000 salary, and it was incredible that out of that darkness, just through a little bit more perseverance, I was so blessed that then Kind just took off. And once we launched Kind, and I kept close to a lot of the mistakes I'd made and all of the failures that I had encountered the prior 11 years. And when I launched Kind, I made sure not to make the mistakes that I made in those prior 11 years. And I think that to some degree, that's a lot of why Kind succeeded.
I always thought the name Kind was like, be kind to yourself, eat something good, but it has a much bigger meaning, the actual name of the snack.
Yeah, my team member Sasha Hare and I were trying to, when you write a book, you research all these things and you remember really the silliest things. The names that we were coming up with that were alternatives to Kind, if you would read them, and you can in the book, I'm like, that guy is such a putz. How did he figure this thing out when he was also considering against Kind these other names? And
What
it's
were the
not
other
like
names?
they're in the book, and but they were like really silly. One was Go Go Bar, and that's actually one of the good ones. There were some really, but what Sasha wanted to do was for us to have a human adjective, and that's when she and I rallied around the concept of kindness, because honoring my dad's memory, that was a word that really connected with me. And the reason it worked is that we had 3 pillars to our brand. It was about being kind to your body by eating nutritionally dense, real ingredients that you can see and pronounce, not sugar, not real food. We're the #1 ingredient in all of our products. We promised ourselves was going to be nutritionally rich, never sugar. Number 2 was about being kind to your taste buds. So you don't have to sacrifice health for taste or vice versa. And then the third one was being kind to your world, about trying to do your small part to try to make this world a little bit better, a little bit kinder. And the magic of kindness is that when you're kind to one another, it creates more happiness in the world. The nerds like me call it being a net happiness aggregator. And what I mean by that is that if I'm in the street and somebody needs help and I help her carry the stroller down the street, down the stairs to the subway, she feels good that somebody helped her, but I feel good about myself too. I just feel better. And the more that you go out of your way, the more that it's a total stranger, the bigger the steps and longer the steps, the heavier that child in that stroller, the more that you feel, the more reward you get for being kind to others. And so it's a very rare force. I haven't thought of another one where you can create more happiness by just doing more of it. The more that we're kind to one another, the more that we'll feel better and the other person will feel better. So it's just so obvious to us that we wanted to try to inspire that. And the challenge in inspiring it is that the reason that it's so magical is that it's authentic. You can't inspire kindness in inauthentic ways. Like, you can't tell a person, hey, if you guys are all kind, you'll get a free kind bar, or we'll give you a trip to Disney to the one that's kindest. It doesn't feel right? It feels disgusting. And so you have to honor the authenticity of the kindness. And so in the way, over the last 10, 11 years, we've tinkered with a lot of social experiments for how to inspire kindness in authentic ways without ever undermining the beauty of the pureness of it, which is what creates that magic when you're doing it just for the right reasons, which is just because it's nice to be kind.
In your book, you say money is not a purpose. So many people build companies because you want to make a profit, you want to make it in the world, but you said that's actually not a purpose. What do you mean by that?
I mean, I'm a capitalist. I believe in market forces, as Winston Churchill said, to paraphrase, the worst except for all alternatives. It's a very efficient way to distribute capital. It's a very effective way to scale and to grow and to sustain. And I think I have the luxury to say that money is not a purpose, because I came from a situation with parents that were there behind me, and if I would have fallen, they would have been able to give me a hand, and I didn't have to worry about putting food in my table. So, of course, you need sustenance and you need money to be able to pay for your things. But at the end of the day, money is just a means to that. Money is a means to that food. Money is the means to that sustenance. And there's so much more in life than just money. And the danger is, particularly when you start seeing a little bit of success, when you start getting obsessed about just the money issue. Because with the Forbes list and this list and those lists and who's the richest person, you start thinking that the way to measure your success is whether you're the richest person or whether you're the most famous or the most powerful. And all of those are external, ephemeral aspects that are not really going to give you fulfillment. And as our friend Mats was saying earlier, like, earlier generations tried that and they didn't really, a lot of them, achieve that maximum happiness. And the new generations are seeing that there's more to life than just obsessing about money. Now, I don't mean you should not care about, if you're building a business, running the business as a business and being effective and sustainable, because if you don't build a sustainable business, then there's nothing else you can do with your social mission. But if you really care about making this a better world and finding a way to embed in your business a true, authentic passion that you care about and that gives you meaning, then it's going to probably give you a lot more fulfillment and a lot more staying power. So, you asked about whether I had tough challenges. I'm like, when did I not have tough challenges? In those first 10, 11 years, every day I was screwing up one way or another. And a lot of the thing that gave me that staying power was that when I looked at my Palestinian and Israeli friends that were facing life and death, and the importance of us being able to help them connect and being able to advance our dream and something that we really believed, it just helped me keep going and not give up.
You also talk about, really moving, I found in your book, a moment when, a major setback, I would say, when Starbucks called and said, guess what, we're suddenly going to remove the product out of the stores. And one of the advice from your shareholders was, don't sweep this under the rug. Go in there and own it and use this as a way to move forward. It doesn't sound like many companies would often take that advice. They put out the PR statement from the media world. We get the statement saying, oh, this was a decision. That it's never coming forward and owning it. It's sort of sweeping it under the rug. How did you decide to take that advice and do that?
So there are many ways to answer this question. First of all, always I believe that authenticity and transparency is a better long-term solution to everything. And a lot of what people appreciate about Kind is that we're very authentic and transparent, not just outside with our consumers, not just with the transparent wrapper, but with the way we communicate, also internally with our team. So it was very important for us to be honest with our team. Also, to be frank, gave us the opportunity to galvanize our team around the challenge. We had been very lucky from when Kind had grown in 2004 to when I guess we got initially discontinued in 2000 and maybe 11 or 12 or 13, that we were really growing like crazy. And it's okay for you to celebrate your failures and get shut down and just stand up and just learn to not give up. It was an important lesson that we needed to accept because we knew that we were going to face, and we are going to face, the more you grow and the more you fall, the bigger that fall is going to feel and get. And we need to build that muscle. And it's so easy for you to be writing success and, oh, we're so great. But when you really get challenged, when you really get a serious test, is when your true values and culture and family unit approach in your company are really tested, when you really see if there's leadership from your team for us to rise to those challenges and rise above. So for us, it was also an opportunity to challenge our team, and I walked through how we did it. We say, look, guys, this is a challenge. I also shared some of our successes. It was good for us that we had a lot of other successes, but this was emotionally for me a very painful setback because I had invested myself into that relationship. And it was very respectfully done by them with the way they handled it. They were very respectful partners. They told us these are our strategic reasons. They gave us visibility, and so they did it with elegance. But it was still painful for us, and it was the first time that a major account had removed the product from their stores. And so we used that to say, guys, all right, we need to make up this volume. These items that were there, now we need to distribute them elsewhere. And within a few months, we had more than made up the volume because the items that were exclusive to Starbucks, we offered to others because we had not gone into other coffee places. We decided to do it. But more important, I think, we didn't give up in trying to always have open arms towards Starbucks and say, look, we want to always prove to you and to all of our partners that we're going to be the best partners we can be. And eventually they decided to change course, and they gave us the opportunity to do business with them again, and so we're in their stores now. But we don't take them or any retailer for granted. And for us, in our culture, we don't take anything or anyone for granted. Partly because I'm a paranoid Mexican Jew, but partly because it's really important that you never forget where you're coming from. And that means that when I was starting and I was literally going store to store, I started at 7 a.m. in the morning on 122nd Street on Broadway, walking down the west side of Broadway, store by store, any grocery store, I would walk in and try to sell my products, then finish by 7 p.m., then start on the other side of Broadway up all the way to 122nd Street, then repeat. And when I would finish, I would go and fill up my beaten up Cougar with a product. And the trunk was broken because in New York City, when you park in the street, things get broken. And so I had to tape it with duct tape. And I would run in, deliver the product, and run out. And if I didn't run quickly enough, I would get a ticket. And parking ticket was like $35. And that was my profit for the day. So then that was it. I had lost that day. So it was a very, very tough thing. And I forgot what question you asked me. I'm getting really excited. What was I?
Think it was, we were talking about setbacks, but no, I think you answered it just
No, you told me something else.
I've forgotten now.
Help me, guys. So, yeah? Anyone? See, you guys not paying attention. Everybody's asleep, Rina. You and I are talking to ourselves only.
We need to distribute, this is what we need to do, the jalapeno kind bar. That's my favorite one, I have to say. Recently discovered that one.
But it was
a lot of people are buzzing. There's people are asking about, regarding Kind's FDA warning letter, do you have advice for dealing with regulations and using the policy community to your benefit?
Yeah. Thank you for the softball. Yeah, I mean, so let me just, for people that may not know about this, the FDA sent us a warning letter that told us that 4 out of our items were using the term healthy as a nutrient claim, and we could not use it as a nutrient claim because under the FDA regulations, any item that has more than 1 gram of saturated fat you can not use the term healthy. Now, science has evolved a lot, and the FDA itself recommends people eat nuts, but if they ate the nuts that they recommend, it would trip up the 1 gram of saturated fat. And what we're finding out and what we're learning a lot is, obviously, there's enormous amounts of studies that say that consumption of nuts is good for you, that according to the Harvard School of Medicine, it extends your life. According to the New England Journal of Medicine, a study from BBC, a study from the Netherlands, there's just overwhelming amount of evidence. The scientific consensus is that that people that eat nuts live longer, and it helps in all of our metabolic aspects. And there's a lot of polyunsaturated fats and monounsaturated fats, the good type of fats that actually help lower our glycemic, our diabetes levels, and helps lower the bad cholesterol. So it's very good to eat the fat from the nuts. But we, 20 years ago, when these guidelines were created earlier, clumped all fats together and all saturated fats together, and we didn't pay attention as a society to the differentiating between items like avocado or salmon or olive oil or almonds that actually have overwhelmingly good fats, and the amount of saturated fats is very small. And there's also different types of saturated fats, and the saturated fat in almonds, apparently it's either good for you or neutral. People are debating that, but the overwhelming consensus is that they're good. But that said, we had used it in the back of the wrapper, by the way. Most people hadn't even seen it, but we had used the word healthy. And what we decided to do, and this was thanks to Stephanie, who's here, and to Joe in our company, who taught us how to deal with this stuff, is don't try to run away from the issue. Just be very earnest. Just be very head-on. Don't try to debate whether. Just say, according to the regulatory policy, this is the answer. We did it wrong. We're going to change it immediately. We could have, and we debated, having a bigger debate about, like, no, this was not used as a nutrient claim. It was used as a general language, which it's protect. And one of our attorneys recommend that we explain it's protected under the Constitution, and there's a good argument to do that path. Or we could have explained it away differently, and we decided to not, to just say, we made a mistake, we're going to immediately change all of those things. And just to contextualize, we're also going to work with the FDA to try to update their standards so that they don't discourage unintentionally the consumption of nuts, which is good for you. What we've learned since then, and to answer the question, is that there's an enormous opportunity for us to become thought leaders in this space, because obviously, a kind bar with ingredients you can see and pronounce, where the predominant ingredient in all of our nut bars is nuts, and the predominant ingredient in our grain bars is grains. There's enormous opportunity for us to work with the scientific community. We're really, really touched that overwhelmingly the feedback on consumer websites and from scientists was like, this really doesn't make sense. There's other things that the FDA should focus on. But we didn't play that role. We just were contrite, appropriately so, because we did make that mistake and because we should have been extra cautious. And then we directed and agreed with the FDA on the changes we'd make immediately. And it was the consumers and the scientists and the nutritionists that were explaining things on our behalf. And we realized, wow, there's so much work to be done, where the FDA standards are, and the people that work at the FDA have very good intentions, and they're really trying to do the right thing. It's just that the science regulations take a long time to evolve. And so they're based on the standards from 20 years ago, where we didn't have as much evidence about how to encourage food. So one of the problems that we have in society is that we've been obsessing about encouraging people to eat to a particular nutrient formula as opposed to just to eat real foods. We're trying to encourage nutrition based on nutritional claims rather than nutrition based on real food. And if you eat real food and primarily plant-based foods with fruits, veggies, legumes, nuts, if you eat that primarily, that's going to take care of making sure that you get all of your nutrients. When you obsess about getting this perfect amount of nutrients, it starts getting in the way of real foods, because that doesn't exist in real life. That doesn't exist in nature. An almond has 8 of the 9 key amino acids, but the 9th one you're going to find in lysine, which is in yogurt. And if the FDA requires that you have all 9 amino acids to meet X standard of protein digestibility, which it actually does, then you're forcing the manufacturer to insert artificially derived proteins, which we don't want to do and which we're not going to do. So I think that what the FDA needs to evolve to is to encourage the consumption of real foods and plant-based foods, and that will sort itself out in terms of nutrition.
It's so hard because so much of what you read about the ingredients, very natural flavorings, there's all of these different words for things that aren't really healthy. I want to talk to you, though, about Peaceworks. It's an incredible program that you're involved in, which the idea being that if you have economic cooperation with neighbors of conflict regions through the creation of food, that something wonderful can evolve. You're being asked, do you have a favorite story from the Palestinian and Israeli reconciliation?
Well, I mean, the best stories are success, as you know. I mean, you know, after having created Peaceworks, you see what's going on in the Middle East. There's total peace. Everybody gets along. There's no war or conflict. So we've had an enormous success, and
it's because of you.
And it's all because of us. No, but the first point is that we never even claimed, we never in any of our work said, hey, buy a Peaceworks jar and you will make peace in the Middle East, or buy this product and you will transform the world. I think that's very dangerous to do, and brands that do that, consumers are very sophisticated and they can tell if people are exaggerating or manipulating a cause, and then I think it hurts the brand and it helps society. So we always spoke with humility about our work. We described what we did. We said, this product is made through cooperative ventures between Arabs and Israelis, and explained that the sun-dried tomatoes came from the Turks, that the glass jars came from the Egyptians, that the olives and olive oil came from Palestinians, that the Israeli manufacturer did it, and we were very factual. And I think whoever is building social missions or business models with a social component, you just need to always understate and over-deliver, because otherwise consumers can detect to it. But my favorite mistakes, I mean, I have 1,000, but I'll tell you one.
Not your favorite mistake, your favorite story of...
See, I go to mistakes because I think those are the best stories.
We want to end
I'll
on a
tell you my
positive
favorite.
note for...
It's all positive.
Yeah.
Learning from your failures is the most positive thing. It really... wow, we're ending? Oh, man. That went too fast.
No, but finish that thought.
When I first started with the spreads, we had 3 flavors: sun-dried tomato, basil, and olive. And they did pretty well. They were very tasty, very high quality. So the thought that I was given is, you know, just expand, just make more flavors, and then you get more shelf space. So we went and we developed 7 flavors. It worked. So then in my greed, I was 25 years old. Not that it's an excuse, but I was like just trying to get more shelf space and naive to not think enough about the repercussions of doing what I was about to do. We just expanded to 16 flavors. And we were struggling to come up with the 15th, let alone the 16th one. By the time we got to the 16th, if you come ever to my office, on my desk, I still keep it as a reminder to keep me humble and remember how stupid I was. It's the sweet and spicy teriyaki Asian pepper spread. And why I thought that anybody would think that Arabs and Israelis should be making an Asian product still eludes me. But the worst part about it is that the product had too much xanthan gum, which, well, it's natural, it's very gelatinous, and it just didn't feel the way the other products. It really was not as tasty, and it wasn't the quality that the earlier products had. But my naive sense at the time said, you know what? It's okay. They'll try the other ones. They'll like the other ones. If they don't like this one, let them go back to that one. And it was such a short-sighted way of thinking, because what I didn't realize back then was the person that would try that sweet and spicy teriyaki pepper spread would be doing that because they trusted our brand, because we had built that relationship with them for them to try something else from our brand. And the minute we disappointed them, we didn't just disappoint them on that flavor, we disappointed them as a brand. And so that they would stop buying the line altogether. And we really, really witnessed, after we launched all of these flavors and started disappointing consumers, it took 6 months to a year, but we really witnessed how sales went down. And it was an incredibly painful but important lesson. And so that's when we launched Kind many, many years later. I obsessed about, and still obsessed, that we will never go into a category or launch a product unless we really, really feel that it's going to really fulfill that brand promise, that it's really going to have the taste and quality and what the consumer has come to expect, that we're going to keep that promise.
What's next for Kind?
What's next for Kind is actually to fulfill our aspiration. We are going to, as a business, going to try to continue growing in other categories and reinventing categories, never as a me-too item, never to just be following a fad, but if we feel that we can come up with a better way to deliver in a particular category, products with ingredients that are nutritionally dense, that you can see and pronounce as real food, and deliver a better experience, we're going to continue doing that. But that's not what excites us, or what I think is going to make us feel that when we look back, we're going to be like, awesome. What excites us is the thought that Kind can become a movement, appropriate for this conference. What excites us is that our community is going to think of themselves as that, as a community, not as our consumers. Yeah, they can love our products and they can love our brand and they can love this particular flavor, but what they love above all is that they feel that we're in this together, that we've formed a community and a state of mind to try to encourage all of our society to, in our everyday lives, do a little smaller thing here to be kinder to one another, and that we're also in the work we do with kind causes, triggering big kind acts for those who need it most, for the most vulnerable, whether it's sexually abused children or orphans or foster kids or kids that really, really need it, or mothers that can't pay for their diapers, and where we're all together finding very creative ways to really help society. And we have today over 500,000 people, or close to 500,000 people, that have signed on to the Kind movement, that receive our newsletters. And we have a lot of things we do. One of them is, if you go to kindmovement.com, you'll learn about kind causes, but every month we invite our community to vote for things that they care about. And the way you vote is by pledging yourself that you're going to do a small kind act to somebody else. And the cause that inspires the most kind acts is the one that then gets a grant from us. And the grant comes not just with dollars, but our marketing team, our field marketing team, our entire team finds a way to also help celebrate their work and amplify their work and help those organizations or those causes grow a little bit more and impact more people. But we're about this, in the next few months, has any of you guys ever received these cards, your Kind Awesome cards? That's because, oh, you did? Cool. So come on down. You won a free Volvo. No, I'm just joking. So the way it works is that if you're spotted by somebody that carries these cards, and it says, you're kind awesome, and so you do a kind act for somebody else, and the act has completed. You've done that kind gesture without anybody incentivizing you to do it. You do it for the pure reasons. Once we observe that, and only after that magic has happened, we then approach and say, that was really kind awesome that you stepped up to let that elderly lady sit down, or that was really nice that you seated your taxi to that other person, or whatever that kind act was. And in appreciation for your kind act, you go to this website, enter this code, and we send you 2 kind bars, plus, I think more important, another Kind Awesome card along with that package, so then you can celebrate the next person that you spot doing the kind thing to you or to someone else. This is just one of the different experiments that we're playing with. In the coming months, we're going to hopefully really leverage these with a couple of creative things to try to grow it,
It's all about social engagement. We're hearing more and more. We've got to go, Daniel. I wanted to thank you so much. I guess everyone got a taste today of why Daniel has been named America's most promising social entrepreneur.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.